Hey everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back. So my name is Katie if you're new, and this is going to be my last Pan That Palette update for the year, which is crazy. So I've got some really good progress to share and I'm just overall really happy with how things are going with both of my palettes. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with my Pat McGrath Mini Sublime as always. As of the last update, I had one remaining shade and had finally re-hit pan on it after repressing. I had like a little bit of pan showing, but I was just hoping for pan expansion. And so this is what things are looking like right now. So as you guys can see, I have a really good amount of pan expansion, way more than I expected, and the end is actually looking like it's in sight with this one. Like it is visible. I'm not quite there yet, but I am very, very close. I've had kind of an interesting month with this one because I was kind of dragging my feet on it just because I'm getting a little bit tired of reaching for it all the time. About 3 weeks in, I had 2 uses on it and I challenged myself to use it every single day for the last week that I was going to be at work for the year, and I did. So that put me at 7 additional uses for 9 overall, and I made a ton of progress that way. So I am going to be repressing this probably later today, so if I have a photo of that before I get this video edited, I will insert this. So I think what this looks like after repressing is going to give me a better idea of if I'm going to try to have this one finished by the end of the year, just to kind of cap this palette off, tie 2022 up neatly in a bow. But having said that, if I decide not to, which I think is also quite likely, I just want to get a handful more uses on this one. I think I will definitely be reaching for it. I do have a couple of things going on that would require some more neutral looks, so I think this will be my go-to for those, at least until it's finished, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna push myself to try to have this one finished by the end of this year. If I were working my normal work schedule, I think I would have 0 issues getting this one done, but because I am finished for the year with 3 weeks left to go before 2023, I am kind of not entirely sure that I will be able to finish this, or at least that I want to prioritize this one when I could be wearing the greens, the reds, the golds, you know, really getting a little bit more creative and just kind of enjoying being able to do more whatever I want with my makeup when I'm not working. With that in mind, I am not entirely sure what this is going to look like by the next update, although I am sure that there will be less of it. I will also say that I have been really enjoying using this one as a base for some of my semi-sheer multichromes. So this has been really nice for putting Reserve No. 2 by Shine by SD on top of. That's sort of like a glittery copper shade that has a little bit of a shift to it. I've also been really enjoying putting Martian and Solar Rain, I believe, from the Danessa Myricks like mini lightwork 3 on top of this, just to sort of change it up a little bit. So I think I will use this a couple more times, both on its own and like that, but I'm not entirely sure that it'll be like done by the next update. So moving on to the Norvina palette, this is the second update with this palette. I brought it in October. First update was last month. You can do the math. This is my second update, and I'm also pretty happy with the progress on this one. So as of the last update, I was hoping to re-hit pan on Summer, which is the gold shade. I was hoping for pan expansion on all of my existing pans, and then I was also hoping to get more of a dip happening on Eccentric, which is like the orangey sort of shade. Let's start off with the gold that I did not hit, and that would be Summer. I've used this one 3 times. I do have like much more of a dip happening with this one because it is such a soft shimmer. However, I have not quite managed to hit pan. Looking at this dip, I would say I am probably 2 to 3 uses away from getting there, but I did just kind of end up focusing on this, and I had quite a few mornings over the last few weeks where I was just basically using this as a one and done. If I'd been doing my makeup at home, probably would have incorporated Summer, but because I was just sort of putting Sextrovert on with some mascara after getting to work, Summer got ignored a little bit. However, I think this is a shade that I really enjoy wearing. I mean, all the time, but especially during the holidays with like a red lip, so I see a lot of that in my future over the next few weeks. So I think the likelihood that I will actually hit pan on Summer by the next update is pretty high. Now with Wild Child, I've been primarily using this one as a blush or a blush topper. I have a lot of matte blushes, which was certainly a choice for somebody who has dry skin. So I've been really liking using Wild Child with just a fluffy brush and a light hand just to add a little bit of sheen and make me look a little bit more like I'm, you know, not a dry reptile throughout the winter. So with this one, I'm noticing definitely some like flattening of the pan. Like there is physically less like right up through this top left quadrant over here. And I'm also noticing quite a bit of pan expansion as well. This sort of sidebar over here is a lot more visible than it was. So I'm thinking that even though I'm not using this one on my eyes as much, I'm thinking that I will probably be able to finish this one up within the next few months, just using it the way that I have been. And I've used this one 7 times, which I'm really happy about. I definitely think getting this one finished is sometime in the future, maybe by March, April-ish. Rose Gold looks the exact same because I still have not used it yet. I know that during the winter and spring, this will be a shade that I'm really going to want to use. So I've been kind of just holding myself back and focusing on some of the golds and the shades that have been feeling more like autumn to me. honestly, this one's time is definitely coming, and I think by the new year it'll definitely be getting there. I've used Celestial once since the last update, but because this has been sort of crumbly since repressing, every single time I use it, I do notice quite a bit of change. So I'm looking at this one and I'm noticing that the dip is really wide, but it is actually getting pretty deep. So I'm thinking I might be able to hit pan on this one by the next update. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm thinking it might be possible. Dazzling, I also have not used. Again, like the focus was just on Sextrovert. They are very, very similar and I would use them for the same thing. So this one has just been kind of on the back burner until I finish Sextrovert, which is definitely going to be happening. If not by the next update, the update after Sextrovert will definitely be gone and then it'll be Dazzling's turn. Drama, I also have not used. I am kind of thinking about what I want to do with the shade because I have done a couple of swatches with this one and I think it used to be a little bit more pigmented and a little bit less crumbly and flaky. And so I'm kind of wondering if maybe this one is getting to the end of its lifespan. I also have a couple of similar shades in the Melt, Cheese, and Parties palette that I just have a formula that I know is still performing just fine that I would rather use. So I'm kind of contemplating maybe decluttering this one because it's one that I knew that I wasn't going to finish anyway. So I'm kind of wondering if it might make more sense for me to just scrape this one out and, you know, call it done and not be worrying about it. Or maybe scrape this one out and then repress a little bit of one of the two deeper plum shades from Cheese and Parties in here just to act as deepening up shades and get some use on them that way without trying to force myself to use a shade that I'm just not really enjoying. This one is very crumbly. I'm getting a lot more followed on my face than I used to, and the pigmentation is just not what I remember it being. The rest of the shimmers I haven't noticed any changes in, but for some reason I don't feel like Drama is performing the way that it used to, so it might be time to say goodbye to this one. I'm gonna kind of try to use it a couple more times over the next month and get a better sense of what's happening there. Do not be surprised if this one is gone at some point in the future. Then base, I am super happy with the progress. Now I've been using this one as a face highlight in addition to an inner corner and brow bone highlight, which is why there is so much progress on this one. But as you guys can see, I did re-hit pan. I knew I was really close. I think it took me under 5 uses to make that happen since the last update, and I have used this one a total of 10 times. So it's been basically my default inner corner highlight shade if I'm doing anything neutral, and sometimes if I'm not, as well as I'll sometimes use it a little bit just like on my cheekbones to add a little bit of brightness. Again, I think that this one will probably be gone within a couple of months at the rate that I'm going, and I'm really happy about that. Next up, we've got Soul. I have used this one 3 times. I see a little bit of pan expansion, nothing super crazy. Again, I don't know if I will have this one finished, but I'm going to just try to use it a little bit more. I currently have a lilac shade in my pan of eyeshadows that is really nice with this one, so I've been using them together, which I think is the main reason why I've gotten as much use out of Soul as I have. It's not a shade that I am super keen on myself, and from what I've heard from you guys in the comments, it just seems like it's a tricky shade on most people unless you have Norvina's complexions. I think it's a really pretty shade, but I think in reality using it on a lot of people it's just not the most flattering. So I am trying to get some use out of it, but again, I'm not super fussed on finishing it up. I don't really mind as long as I use it more and see if I can find ways to make it work on me. That's pretty much all I'm going for with this one. Next up, Incense. I have 9 uses on this one. This has basically been my default transition shade if I'm doing anything neutral. So I've gotten a ton of use out of it that way, and I feel like I do have some pan expansion, maybe not a ton for the number of uses. I also think this one may take a while to finish, but I think it's also doable. Next up, Love. I've used this one 4 times. I have been dipping into it a little bit as a blush with a very light hand and often putting a little bit of Wild Child on top of it. I would really like to have this hang around until Rose Gold is finished. So I expect with this one, as I sort of head into a season where I want to use Rose Gold a little bit more, I think that I will be reaching into this one more too. I think I'll have some more pan expansion on this one by the next update as well. Then Volatile. I had just hit pan on that one last month, and so I've used this one an additional 7 times and I got some pan expansion. This one is not as firmly pressed as Eccentric, but definitely more firmly pressed than Incense and Love. So this one is taking a little bit longer to see progress, but again, during those gloomy January and February days, I know that I will be reaching for this one a ton. Then we've got Eccentric. I'm actually happy with this one. I did not expect to hit pan. I do have on this one, I think, a much more visible dip. Like I'm definitely getting there and it's looking a little bit more obviously used. This one is way more firmly pressed into the pan than the rest of the mattes, and it doesn't kick up the same way. So this one is taking a lot longer to see progress, and I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to use it as often as I can. I've used this one 7 times, and so I'm thinking, well, I probably am unlikely to hit pan on this one by the next update, just at the rate that I'm going. I'm thinking by February it is probably doable, so that's kind of what I'm going to keep in mind going forward. And then lastly, we've got Passion. This one I also hit pan on as of the last update, and I've reached into this one 4 times, so not as much as last month, but I am definitely getting some use out of this one. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to have this one fully finished, but it is nice for adding a little bit of depth on the outer third of the eyes, which is a step that I really like to do when I have time. The caveat obviously being when I have time. I've had a lot of very chaotic mornings. I think just the getting to work when it's still basically dark and then getting home and it's basically dark has been kind of just more of a struggle, so I've been a lot more tired in the last few weeks because of that. If I'm running late, using Passion will be be an extra step that I might skip, but I'm hoping to get more usage out of this one over the coming weeks and months. So that's kind of like the update on these. I have some really good progress, especially with Wild Child and Base, and obviously a fail in the form of Summer, but I think I'm really close. Like, watch me use this one more time and hit pan. Now, in terms of goals, I really do want to use Sextrovert a couple more times. I would be surprised if I managed to have this one finished, just with where my priorities are right now and what my schedule is looking like, but I do want to get more usage out of this one and get it to a point where I can finish it by February. And then for Norvina, I have a couple of different goals. First one, obviously, hit pan on Summer. I would also like to possibly re-hit pan on Celestial. I think it's doable, and I think a couple more uses then I will probably get there. And then for everything else, I'm just going for pan expansion, and then I just want to get more of a dip happening. On Eccentric, again, I don't think I will be able to hit pan on this one by the next update unless I use it like every single day, which is not realistic and would not be fun for me. But I would expect between now and the next update for progress to slow down a little bit. I am trying to get myself back on some semblance of an update schedule for this project and everything else that I'm doing. So I think my next update will probably be coming around the 1st of January. So I expect that there is probably going to be a little bit less progress just because it's currently December 9th and my next update will be coming on or around January 1st. So the next one will probably encompass about 3 weeks worth of progress instead of my usual 4. But like I said, I am really trying to get like back on track for 2023 so that I'm not sort of going like 2 weeks in between updates and then 6 weeks. I'm trying to like really get it together. That is everything that I have for this update. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like. If you enjoyed me, feel free to subscribe, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Bye!